it's Laura here, and I wanted to make a video actually walking you through some of the proposals that I've received in the last week. Now, sometimes I will go out to places like Upwork, forums, and even reach out to my personal network and ask for referrals when it's time to hire somebody else or when one of my clients has a need that I can't exactly fill. And every time I do this, it serves a dual purpose. So I'm trying to find a person to fill a particular need. That's the first purpose. But the second purpose is also to see what the market is looking like. So in the process of helping another person hire any type of freelancer, graphic designer, voiceover artist, writer, virtual assistant, I get the opportunity to see how people are actually pitching and bidding. And I feel like putting together this video and sharing it with my audience is super, super important because in this last week, I have probably received between 50 and 60 proposals from people who wanted to submit to a handful of jobs, but primarily being a content writer for someone. And the proposals that I received, there were some that were okay, but honestly, only a handful were something I would even consider referring out to a client. The vast majority of them had what perhaps freelancers might see as small mistakes, but they are immediate reasons why I would decline working with that candidate, why I would not recommend this candidate working with anyone in my network, right? I'm not going to refer people who I have questions about their ability to pay attention to detail. So I'm showing you some actual proposals, emails, and work samples that I received from people this week. My team has blurred out any personally identifying information. So the goal here is not to shame people, not to embarrass people, but it's to honestly call attention to what I believe is a real problem. Now, there's a little bit of leeway when you're a graphic designer or a virtual assistant, but not when you're a writer or an editor. And even when you're pitching yourself as a virtual assistant, any client who hires you will believe that detail matters. So if you don't have the time or the care to proofread your proposals or the work samples that you're sending, you are exposing yourself to significant problems. So let's walk through some of these and then why they're not going to work, why I'm going to immediately decline this candidate. This is a great opportunity for you to go back and look at your own proposals, your own work samples, and determine how you can change things if you need to at all. A lot of the times when I work with clients one-on-one, we discover that there's a problem in the pitching process. It's either their work samples or their proposal that is costing them jobs because clients are immediately ruling them out. Now, sometimes it's just that the pitch is decent, but it's not compelling enough. And other times I've found actual errors and mistakes in people's work. And particularly if you're going to be an editor writer, this is a must not do. You cannot be convincing someone else that you're a high quality writer when there are mistakes in your work, even if it's your pitch. So let's talk about what I mean. First one, this was for a virtual assistant job, a response on Upwork. I am working as a technical assistant as a full-time job and as a virtual assistant for part-time. I have a bachelor's degree and is well-versed in virtual assistant works, so as data entry, admin support, and other relative works. First of all, I'm not even entirely sure what you're trying to say here. Random things are capitalized. The tone of this is also telling me that you have another full-time job. You know, the way it comes across is that you don't really care about doing work for this project. You're just looking for a way to make extra money. Even though this statement may technically be true, that you have a full-time job. Let's not give the client the perception that you're just looking for a way to make extra money and you've really got another full-time gig, you know, this being a virtual assistant thing, you're not really that committed to it. You honestly don't even need to tell me that you have a full-time job unless we start communicating about it and I ask you if you're available during particular hours and you need to be upfront and say, hey, you know, actually I'm not because I'm currently employed somewhere else. But this isn't something that you need to reveal to the client unless it's going to interfere with something that they're asking for. And the bad grammar and the random capitalization here, big problem. So here's another one that gives me that impression that you don't really care and you're just excited about making extra money. I'm currently working for a call center to make ends meet while I work towards building my writing career. Then bad grammar. I am by no means experienced in the actually job field in writing, but I am hungry. I mean, not hungry enough to proofread what you just submitted. This makes no sense. There's no way I would hire you as a writer. No way I would refer you out to somebody else. It's just not clear. It's so poorly written. And another thing to pay attention here, this whole response is based on the freelancer and not the client. So I get no perspective that you are interested in doing the job itself. you're just talking about yourself. And this is a major mistake a lot of people make with proposals, especially on Upwork. You want to convince the client that you're the right person for the job, but not to the point where you're only talking about yourself. Those proposals are very generic. And aside from the bad grammar here, I would not consider this proposal for that reason. I also don't like the closing statement here. I'm willing to try new things. That tells me that you're totally inexperienced. And, work samples and dedication and quality can make up for lack of experience. But I'm a little hesitant about working with someone who's saying I'm willing to try new things and doesn't even have the concern or the passion to edit what they're submitting. Here is somebody's work sample that was sent to me via email. A misplaced comma. This is in the first paragraph of the work sample. So you send me a 30-page document. It has a misplaced comma immediately in this first paragraph. Otherwise, the work sample was okay, but according to anxiety expert, comma, Charles Linden, comma, the comma goes after Charles Linden's name. According to anxiety expert, Charles Linden, blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of things, when it jumps off the page to someone who has an editing eye or who has been a writer. And it's so important to proofread your stuff, your work samples and your proposals. Pay someone else to do it. Ask an English teacher friend of yours. Please have somebody proofread your work because it could be an honest mistake. We all make typos. We all have mistakes. Get the free version of Grammarly and run your work through it. Grammarly regularly catches me with missed hyphens and other problems where I haven't put things in the right place. The free version catches a lot of mistakes. The paid version catches even more. So let's make the effort to really have your work be proofread. Another one. This is the first paragraph of another writing sample that I received. It's not like I didn't see it coming, but when my husband woke up and one morning casually announced that he wouldn't be coming back, I was surprised. You are sending me the opening statement of your writing sample does not have the letter I capitalized the way it should be. Now, if you're not seeing that as a writer or as an editor, how do I have the confidence to believe that you're going to bring the appropriate level of detail to a job that either I'm working with you on one-on-one or that I'm referring to somebody else? This is a major mistake. Like, even if it is an honest one and you just didn't see it, it shows that you just don't care. And furthermore, if you wrote this in Microsoft Word, which is how it was delivered to me, when I open it, I see the red lines under the letter I indicating that there is a capitalization problem here. You should have seen that too. Word likes to alert you to spelling problems and grammar issues. This is one that should not have been missed. Okay, here's another one that I received on Upwork with more random capitalization, and then the grammar is just questionable. I also don't need the first sentence at all. Dear Laura, you're looking for a blog writer. Yes, that's indeed why the title of the job says something like blog writer needed. You don't need that at all. You're not using that sentence to pivot and say, you're looking for a blog writer. I'm confident I'm the one who should stand above the rest. Like, there's nothing that connects this first sentence to anything to do with why I should hire you. So please omit it. And then they've got some information about their background here, but I have also vast experience in literature review and proofreading, touching on the 6th year now. This sentence is awkward. It's got syntax issues. I don't know why literature is capitalized. It's just very uncomfortable. So that's not serving a purpose. It could be a lot better. And because this is, when I'm looking at proposals, I may only spend 3 to 5 seconds looking at someone's proposals. And I just went through this experience. I just hired my podcast manager, and looked at a lot of proposals, and I received about 30. Only 2 were responded to at all. And the one who stood head and shoulders above the rest was the person who took the time to tailor their proposal to me. It was grammatically correct. This is somebody I'm hiring to help with show notes and some perspective on writing here. So to me, I'm looking for those details. I want to know that this is someone I can count on. And the truth is that there's so many bad proposals that the good people are immediate standouts. So you can actually use this to help you when you're submitting on a job board or pitching for any job. Be aware of the fact that so many people send poor quality proposals, poor quality work samples. We get a lot of trash when we put a potential job out there. So by you being well thought out, personalizing the proposal to the client, and submitting high quality work samples, that helps you stand head and shoulders above the competition. Here's another one. We've blurred out the address. However, I don't need your address. And there were miscapitalizations in the address. Their street was not properly capitalized. And I am very confused by this first sentence. My name is, and I'm trying to start one of my careers as a freelance writer. One of my careers. I don't know what that means. Are you employed full-time somewhere else? Are you looking to become a freelancer part-time? Either way, you're not convincing me that you're the person for the job. And then this second sentence, why is this even in here? I have many dreams, but I do enjoy writing. Like, that's great, but this whole proposal is flowing like writing is an afterthought. Being a freelance writer is an afterthought. You're not crazy about it, but you enjoy it from time to time. I mean, that's like me saying, I'd rather be doing many other things, but I do enjoy going to my personal trainer. Like, it's a dig on the whole practice. So it's pointless. Okay. I don't need that in there. And then there's not enough confidence here either. I know I don't have much experience, but I believe I would be a great candidate to work with. I can bring a good attitude and great articles. You have not convinced me of that because you have not taken the time to write a compelling proposal, nor have you included proper grammar, capitalization, or convinced me that you even really care about writing that much. So what was the purpose of this exercise of showing you some real proposals, some real mistakes in writing samples that I received? Because it just shocks me. Like, people are always asking me, is it still possible to be successful as a freelance writer in 2016, in 2017, and beyond? My answer is yes, because the demand is out there. I see calls for writers, needs for a writer all the time. What I don't see is the freelance writing community as a whole responding in a way that really communicates their talents. Your proposal and your writing sample shouldn't sell you short. They should convince the client that you are the number one person to work with. And so when I get a proposal like this that shows that you're not really committed, you don't really care, you haven't even edited your materials, you haven't done really anything to personalize this proposal for the client, it doesn't leave me inclined to hire you or to recommend you to somebody else. So the lessons to walk away from this experience with are: always proofread your materials. Number one, never, ever, ever skim on proofreading your materials, particularly if you're an editor or a writer. You are not going to get hired if you have mistakes in your writing samples or in your pitch. It would take a very understanding client to overlook that, and who knows how many jobs you are closing yourself off from because you're submitting these materials and not getting any response. There's a good chance that that's why you're not getting a response, and you won't even know it. So hire somebody else, take a very critical eye to your pieces, use tools like Grammarly to keep on track of the problems, and make sure you've double and triple checked your capitalization and commas. Those seem to be some of the most common issues. The other lesson to take away from this is that you only have a couple of seconds to make a first impression. It is a huge mistake to allow that first impression to be something that just makes me think you don't care. So please, please put in the effort to submit the best possible version of yourself. Any freelancer can learn from this. Virtual assistant, web designer, web developer, graphic designer, anybody can learn from this. Don't let your work samples and your proposal stop you from getting the opportunity to talk to the client and deliver amazing value. I hope this was helpful so that you can kind of see what your competition is doing and what they're not doing particularly well, and how you can do this differently, how you can approach it differently, and really be correct, be accurate, be confident with what you're talking about, be client-centric. These are all really important lessons. So I hope this was helpful. Again, my purpose here was not to just rag on people who could be doing better, but because I see this consistently. This is probably the 6th or 7th time that I've gone out and asked for recommendations for people, and 80 to 90% were just complete trash, not even worth looking past the first paragraph. And the people who didn't do these things were such obvious candidates that, I hired them and I worked with them and stuck with them. And that's, I've recently hired 2 people who were total beginners, but the reason that I started to work with them was because they took the time to write a detailed, thoughtful response. Their background was evident, and they've continued to work with me because of that experience, because they care about quality, because they care about me as the client and not just talking about how great they are. So I hope there's some lessons you can pull from this and use in your own freelance business.